Hi, Andrew Cooper, Advice for Living Financial Planning. This is our March update. Three things today, two of them related. First thing is that age pension rates have been adjusted and will take effect as of this month. And I've got the new rates here. For a single age pensioner, the maximum has now gone up by a few dollars to $987.60, and for a couple to $744.40. That is the full rate. Assets test has increased at the top end a little bit. The bottom amounts, the thresholds have stayed the same. So for a single person, it's full age pension up to $270,500 of assets, and it cuts out at $599,750 for a single person. For a couple, it's full pension up to $405,000 worth of assets, and it cuts out at just over $900,000 at $901,500. So those rates have gone up just a little bit, not as much as the last time, but they're up a little bit. So you don't need to do anything. If you are receiving age pension, then Centrelink will adjust your pension at the appropriate rate. Second thing is, of course, markets, and the thing that is tied to that, of course, is the Russian invasion of Ukraine. First off, markets. The US and Australian markets have been up over the last month. Not a great deal, but they have been up. It's been quite volatile. It's been up one day, down the next, all that sort of thing. So quite a lot of volatility, which I think I said earlier in the year I expected we would probably have a relatively volatile year. We weren't expecting a war, but we were expecting some volatility. That's certainly the case, and the war is having some impact on that. So, as I say, markets up over the last month. Over the last 6 months, markets have been basically just up, basically flat, but just up a little bit. So that's been, well, at least we're going, as I say, at least we're going ahead. We are seeing in the fixed interest market, this is the defensive side of your portfolios, interest rates are finally beginning to go up. They should have gone, I thought, much sooner than this, but they are finally going up, and so this will start to have an impact on the positive side. On the positive side for the defensive part of your portfolios. So because those fixed interest allocations, although they're important, have not been performing well over recent years. So we're hoping that will be an improvement in the near future. Sadly, the reason, of course, they're increasing the rates is because inflation is taking off. So there may have been an increase in your age pension, and interest rates may go up, which will help your investments a bit, but obviously the cost of doing things has increased, certainly in terms of fuel, quite dramatically. Now, the thing that relates to that, of course, is Russia and the Ukraine. And what do I think about that? Because, and why is that important? Well, the only reason it's important because it will impact on what we recommend for your portfolios when we see you for referrals. So my thoughts are that it appears after almost a month of Russia endeavouring to invade Ukraine, it seems to be stalling. That's bringing about a change in the military approach from Russia, which is more long-range bombing and less feet on the ground, apparently. So that is, the impacts of that are equally as dreadful. It's just hard to know what's going to happen. I am quite concerned about the invasion because so many major conflicts have begun with what you might describe as relatively small incursions when people thought that nothing would happen. As an example, First World War, the Kaiser thought that he could invade France via Belgium and no one would do anything. As it turned out, Britain almost did nothing. It was a last-minute decision for them to be involved in the war, and one that wasn't reached unanimously. So I would say he nearly got away with it, but he thought he would be able to do that and that nobody would do anything. The second comparison would be Hitler in World War II, who started the war because he thought, after having taken over Czechoslovakia and Austria, that he could invade Poland, and again, no one would do anything. And we saw how that ended very badly. I am concerned about some parallels between Putin and Hitler. Both of them are disgruntled nutbag, previously relatively lower level operatives from a regime that collapsed. And they had, well, certainly Hitler had a plan to reconstruct Europe in his own, to his own design, and it would appear that Putin has a plan to reconstruct the USSR. So the comparisons between those for me are quite chilling, because we saw what happened, and again, he thought he could invade Ukraine and no one would do anything. What will happen from here, obviously, I don't know. It will depend on Russia. It will depend on the European and US leaders, although notably the US are not taking a major role in this. I mean, they are providing a fair bit of firepower for the Ukrainians, but then again, so are a whole range of other countries. And so, whereas in the past, the Americans would have seen themselves as peacemakers and would have endeavoured to bring some sort of solution to this, whereas it seems it's more it looks like maybe the Israelis or some of the Europeans who look like maybe they will be playing the broker. So what will happen, hard to say. It would probably only take one or two stray missiles to land outside of Ukraine, and NATO could be involved. Harking back to my comparison with World War II, I think if Churchill was still Prime Minister in Great Britain, he would of course be very old, but I would have thought if he was in charge, then the invasion from the UK and maybe the US would have started already. So what will happen, I don't know. What that means for us is that for the moment, we are recommending a hold on people's investments until we get a picture of what's likely to happen. As I said, with markets up, it still looks like certainly the US market and the Australian markets are not finding that the sanctions against Russia are having much of an impact. And indeed, certainly in both the countries, business just seems to be going on. Sure, we are sending arms and aid to Ukraine, but it's not. That's at a government level, so it's not having. That's not seeming to be having much of a business impact. So, so for the moment, I'm certainly with the people we've been reviewing and the people we plan to review in the coming weeks. My thoughts at this stage are that given our market is up, it is volatile, but it has consistently been up over the last certainly over the last month, and it's been marginally up over the last 6 with all the other things that are happening. That probably it will continue. If, of course, World War III does begin, then a different story altogether. But one would have to think that if the Russians can't invade and overtake Ukraine in a month, given that they're right next door and that their numbers seem to be drastically in their favour, then if they can't do that, the likelihood of them taking on the West successfully would seem to be fairly low, I would have thought. So from that point of view, that's my thoughts as they are. So we'll be recommending holds at this stage, but we are certainly watching very, very closely to see what the impact will be. Okay, as always, if there's any questions, anything I can, any issues, then please let me know. And if you want to pass this on to anyone, please feel free to do that. Okay, bye.